Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Like and subscribe, it helps me a lot. And if you want a specific recap, just comment down below. Now let's get into it. Our story begins in the midst of a storm. A blood-red tent flutters violently in the wind, surrounded by a scene of utter carnage. Broken swords and lifeless bodies lie scattered across the battlefield, a testament to the brutal war that has unfolded. Priests, mages, soldiers, none were spared. Among the corpses, the protagonist kneels, head bowed, battered and weary. The protagonist looks up, his gaze heavy with grief. He surveys the devastation around him and mutters bitterly, "So many have died." He curses under his breath, the weight of the loss pressing down on him. A low, ominous voice cuts through the storm. Ahiyudi's careless handiwork. Startled, the protagonist turns to see the source of the voice. A massive figure. The giant Ahiyudi, still alive amidst the destruction. Ahiyudi, the last of the three infamous giants, had appeared 20 days prior for reasons still unknown. The protagonist steps forward, placing a boot firmly on the giant's head. "Because of you, half the empire has become a graveyard," he spits. "Why are you still alive?" The giant's voice rumbles in reply. "Don't worry, you won't be alive much longer. If you were, you'd only end up on his side." The protagonist's expression hardens. "Good," he says, his voice steely. "My friends who died before me are waiting." Ahiyudi frowns. "Friends?" The protagonist elaborates, taunting him. "The other two giants who came with you. One was incinerated by a hot-tempered red dragon. The other was sealed for eternity by an old man named Lorhan. Do you understand now?" The giant snarls. "Don't try to deceive me with lies. The children of the stars share their senses. We know our comrades' fates, and we know strong warriors like you no longer exist on this planet." The protagonist chuckles darkly. "People still live," he replies. "What are you talking about?" Ahiyudi smirks, undeterred. "You know your end is near. You poured everything into your training, didn't you? If you'd reached this level earlier, you might have become a significant obstacle to our cherished wish. But it's too late." The protagonist's hands tremble with anger. "I know I've lived a messed up life," he growls. "So shut up." The giant regards him with something akin to pity. "You were a great human. You should take pride in that. But in the end, your world is nothing more than ash, engulfed by the starlight." As the words leave Ahiyudi's mouth, the protagonist moves with lethal precision, severing the giant's head in one swift stroke. The massive head flies into the air before crashing to the ground with a dull thud. Rain pours down as the protagonist turns away, his steps heavy. Lost in thought, he reflects on the futility of his actions. What could he have done differently? Could he have prevented the devastation and the loss of his comrades? He begins to wince in pain, his body betraying the toll the battle has taken. As he walks, memories flood his mind of his friends, their laughter, and their bravery. He stops in front of a fallen comrade, gazing at the lifeless body. "Foolish," he murmurs. "What kind of pride made you fight until the end? Did you think you were strong because of me? You should have read the room and run." His voice breaks. "Why didn't you run?" The protagonist's thoughts shift to the giants. They were capable of deflecting the Empire's strongest attacks. Why, then, was his sword the only one that could harm them? If it hadn't worked, his friends would never have stood a chance. They wouldn't have died. Overwhelmed by anger and grief, his reverie is interrupted by a faint voice calling out through the storm. "Is anyone there?" He freezes, the voice igniting a flicker of hope. Recognizing it, he stumbles forward, his body protesting every step. As he nears the source, he hears groans of pain. Finally, he arrives to find a figure lying amidst the wreckage. The voice, now weak but unmistakable, speaks again. "You found me." The protagonist's breath catches as he looks down at the injured figure, Ade-chan, the Grand Commander. Her arm has been severed, and she is gravely wounded, yet she is alive. Relief and anguish wash over him as he kneels beside her. The protagonist, Corporal Ronin, bit his lip in anger. "For someone in command, what is this?" he asked bitterly. The Grand Commander, her voice weak but steady, replied, "You're just a corporal. You're not exactly that great yourself. But more importantly," she paused, her gaze searching his face. "Is Ayudi dead?" Ronin nodded, his expression grim. "I killed him. His body's not far from here." She let out a sigh of relief, her body relaxing slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. Ronin watched her cry in silence before speaking again. "If you're that grateful, will you listen to a request?" She looked at him curiously. "I want the disciplinary soldiers to be properly buried," he said. "I know the regulations say they're to be abandoned or buried in mass graves, but not this time. Treat them well." The Grand Commander frowned. "You're more alive than me right now. Wouldn't it be better if you looked after them yourself?" Ronin coughed violently, blood splattering onto the ground. "I'm not more alive," he said through gritted teeth. "I could die any second. I fooled around most of my life, and now it feels unfair that I'm the one dying." Her voice softened. "If you were to survive, what would you do?" Ronin smiled faintly, his gaze distant. "I have so many things I want to do, but right now the only thing I can think of is going to an academy." She blinked, confused. "An academy?" "Yeah," he continued. "Ayudi's words are still bothering me. But more importantly, my late sister always wanted me to attend an academy. I never did. If I survive, I'd like to fulfill that wish." He sighed. "But it doesn't matter. Soon, I'll be reunited with my family anyway." The Grand Commander hesitated before speaking again. "When the rain stops, the search party will begin." "Stop," Ronin interrupted sharply. "I'm already a lost cause. Don't waste your breath on useless things." They sat in silence, the storm's fury the only sound between them, until suddenly the rain ceased. The earth began to tremble violently, and a deafening crash echoed through the air. Ronin turned sharply, his eyes widening in shock. Emerging from the horizon was a massive giant with 8 wings, followed by a legion of smaller giants with 4 wings. The army stretched endlessly across the sky. Where did they keep crawling out from? Ronin yelled in frustration. The Grand Commander's face fell in despair. "No way. The 3 giants weren't the end? In the end, I couldn't save this world a 3rd time." She was lost in thought until Ronin's voice jolted her back to reality. "Commander," he shouted, "what are you doing? Get a hold of yourself. Use your telekinesis or something. Shoot me up there. My sword can't reach them from here." She stared at him, bewildered. "What? Are you not going to kill them?" he roared. "You're going to fight in this situation?" she asked incredulously. "Of course. What, do you want to just sit here and wait to die?" His eyes burned with determination. "Even if I die, I'm not letting those lames win." She stared at him, her thoughts racing. He's not giving up, not even now. That's why we made it this far. If it's him, maybe there's still a chance. "Ronin," she called softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. Before he could respond, she leaned in and kissed him. His eyes widened in shock as he felt a small orb pass into his mouth. She whispered something in his ear, but the words were unintelligible to him. "What are you saying?" he demanded. Her voice was calm but firm. "If we meet again, tell me to stop doing stupid things, and tell me to become a tailor." She smiled faintly. "I've done many things, but nothing quite like that." Before he could respond, the 8-winged giant unleashed a devastating blast. The world around them was obliterated in an instant. Amid the destruction, the blue orb she had given him floated through an infinite void. It pulsed faintly before dissolving into light. Ronin's eyes shot open. He sat up abruptly, gasping. "Grand Commander," he shouted, only to be greeted by an unfamiliar sight, a green field stretching endlessly beneath a clear blue sky. He stared, his breath hitching. "Impossible," he murmured. "This place. It can't be." He stood slowly, the realization dawning on him. "This is my hometown, Nimbutin." His heart pounded as the truth hit him. Did I really return to the past? Under the shade of a great tree, Corporal Ronin laughed softly to himself. He couldn't believe the Grand Commander's words had turned out to be true. When she kissed him and passed him that strange blue orb, he hadn't known what to expect. She had said that swallowing it would turn back time, and revealed that this ability had allowed her to ascend to the position of Grand Commander. The orb granted the power to regress a total of 4 times, but she had already used it 3. Only one chance remained, and she entrusted that final opportunity to him. She believed Ronin was the key to saving the world from destruction. "Sharpen your abilities," she had said. "You already have the desire, and that's enough." She told him to go to Filian Academy, a place for the most gifted, convinced it would help him reach his full potential. Before the end, she added with a faint smile, "If we meet again, tell me to stop doing stupid things and become a tailor." Her words echoed in his mind as he stared at the serene field before him. He cursed under his breath, struggling to comprehend the reality of his situation. He had traveled back in time. "This can't be real," he muttered, his voice trembling. But as he looked around, the familiar sights of his hometown, Nimbutin, confirmed it. If this was truly the past, there was something he had to do. His heart raced as a realization struck him. He might have a chance to see his older sister again. Clutching a stick, he dashed through the bustling streets, weaving through people. The sights and sounds of the town overwhelmed him with nostalgia and disbelief. He was almost to his destination when he noticed a group of boys tormenting another child. The boy was strung up, hanging upside down, not by a rope but by magic. Ronin frowned. Magic users were rare, especially in a countryside town like this. He studied the scene, noting a red-haired girl using telekinesis to hold the boy aloft. Her face was conflicted, guilt etched into her features. "Why are they making me do this?" she thought to herself. "What will happen to that poor child?" The boy pleaded tearfully, "Please stop. I don't have any money. My mom's medicine was expensive this month." One of the bullies slapped him across the face. "So what?" the bully sneered. "Why should I care about your mom's health? You should have earned the money if you knew you'd need it." He motioned to the girl, barking, "Lift him higher." The girl hesitated. "I can't," she said nervously. "If I lift him any higher and he falls, he might get hurt." "Why are you so scared?" the bully shot back. "It's not like you're the one hanging up there." As the girl hesitated, Ronin approached silently. He struck the bully on the back of the head with his stick. The boy dropped to the ground, and the bullies turned to face him, confused. "You," one of them growled. "You think you can just butt in?" Ignoring them, Ronin turned to the girl. "Stop before you kill him," he said calmly. The bullies shouted at her, but she hesitated, clearly shaken. Ronin stepped forward, blocking their path. "Don't waste your time on trash like them," he told her. Then, turning to the boy, he asked, "Where did you learn telekinesis magic?" The boy, still trembling, stammered, "F from a grimoire. I bought it from a peddler." Ronin's thoughts raced. A girl with a cheap grimoire who can already use magic like this? She'll be amazing after some training. While Ronin was lost in thought, one of the bullies drew a sword, brandishing it menacingly. "You dare ignore me?" the bully shouted, lunging at Ronin. Ronan dodged easily. The bully blinked, shocked. How did you? Ronan smirked faintly. Even if this body is younger, I still have the discipline and instincts of a soldier. The bully sneered. You're lucky, but I'll make sure you can't leave this place alive. Is that so? Ronan replied coolly. The bully laughed, taunting. Beg for forgiveness on your knees, and maybe I'll spare your life. Of course, you'll have to leave an arm behind. Ronan raised an eyebrow. Terrifying, he said sarcastically. The bully's grin turned sinister. If I kill you, maybe I'll treat your sister well, he added with a cruel laugh. Ronan froze. What did you just say? You heard me, the bully sneered. Every time I see her. Before he could finish, Ronan moved like a wild animal, slashing the bully across the face with his stick. The blow was so precise it severed the boy's ear. The bully screamed, dropping his sword and clutching his wound. The other boys stared in stunned silence. Ronan loomed over the trembling bully, his voice low and menacing. Hey, you little punk, he said, staring into the depths of the boy's soul. Do you want to die? The protagonist stood over the bully, the crowd around them silent and stunned. One of the bullies stammered. Did he just cut off his ear with a stick? Ronan's gaze was cold as he addressed them. Enjoying the show? If you don't want to end up like him, grab this loser and get out of here. He punctuated his words with a sharp kick to the fallen bully's face. The bullies scrambled, picking up their friend. Double will leave, one muttered. Ronan pointed at the bag of coins they carried. Leave the money. Consider it the cost of ruining my mood. Terrified, they dumped the stolen coins and fled. Ronan picked up the bag and handed it to the boy who had been hanging earlier. Take it, Ronan said. The boy's eyes widened. But this is so much more than they took from me. It's fine. All I need is this sword, Ronan replied, gesturing to the bully's discarded weapon. And don't worry about them. They won't have the nerve to show their faces again. The boy bowed deeply. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ronan waved him off. Go home. Before the boy could leave, Estelle approached, her face full of guilt. She stammered, I'm so sorry. I should never have gone along with them. I was just so scared. Tears streamed down her face. It's all my fault. The boy shook his head. It's okay, he said softly. I saw you crying too when they dragged me here. I knew you didn't want to do it. Don't blame yourself too much. He smiled faintly. Thanks for apologizing. As the boy walked away, Ronan studied Estelle. She wasn't as bad as she seemed. Hey, he said. She looked up hesitantly. Do you remember the business we talked about earlier? Yes, she replied cautiously. Good. Meet me here again in 4 days, Ronan said. Why? What for? I'm busy now, but we'll talk then, he replied. His eyes narrowed. When the moon is high in the night sky. And don't make me come looking for you. You won't like what happens if you don't show up. Estelle gulped and nodded. I'll be there. With that, Ronan turned and left, muttering to himself about being late. Estelle stood there, bewildered and unsure of what to think. Later, Ronan arrived at a small house. He paused at the door, clutching a handful of wildflowers. Are flowers too much? He thought nervously, but she always liked them. Before he could change his mind, the door opened. A silver-haired woman stepped out, her face lighting up. Ronan, you're back. All the words he had rehearsed during his years as a disciplinary soldier vanished. Should I apologize for leaving without a word? Tell her I missed her? He wondered. But in the end, all he could manage was, I'm back. They sat together at the table, the air warm and familiar. His sister beamed, holding the flowers he had given her. I never thought I'd see the day my cold brother would bring me flowers, she teased. I'm glad you like them, Ronan replied, a rare smile on his face. Have you eaten? Do you want more stew? I've had enough, thanks, he said. After a pause, he asked, "How old are you this year?" She gave him a curious look. 22. Why? I just forgot for a moment, he said with a sheepish grin. You forgot my age? That's not something you just forget, she scolded, leaning over to check his forehead. Do you have a fever? As she fussed over him, Ronan's thoughts drifted. If she's 22, that means we have 10 years left before the Giants invade. 10 years to prepare. She pulled her hand back, satisfied. No fever, she said brightly. She's just the way I remembered her, Ronan thought. So bright, so kind, so warm. I wish this moment could last forever. But he knew it couldn't. To protect her in the world, he had to act. Sis, he said, his tone serious. What is it? I've been thinking about entering the academy. Her eyes widened in shock and then joy. Say that again. Do you really mean it? I mean it, Ronan affirmed. She bolted from her chair, rushing into the kitchen. I knew this day would come, she cried, throwing things into the air as she searched for something. You're so smart. You'll excel at anything. With a loud clang, she dropped a heavy black pot onto the floor. Here, she declared triumphantly. Inside was a large stash of money. Ronan gaped. Where did you get this much? I've been secretly saving it, she admitted. I wanted to surprise you if you ever changed your mind about the academy. Now you can go. He shook his head, touched by her dedication. You're amazing, sis, but this won't be enough. Her face fell. What do you mean? This is plenty. The school I want to attend is Filian Academy, he explained. Her jaw dropped. What? She shouted, her voice echoing through the house. The Imperial School, Filian Academy, renowned as the finest educational institution in the Empire. Boasting the continent's most distinguished professors and fueled by generous imperial funding, it's a place that molds heroes. Its alumni include the Grand Commander, the Sword Master Shulchin, the infamous Winter Witch, and countless others who shaped history. During the war, graduates of Filian Academy proved invaluable, earning its nickname as the Factory of Heroes. Its fame, however, comes with sky-high entry requirements and exorbitant tuition fees. No wonder the Grand Commander brought it up to me, Ronan thought. Sitting at the table with his sister, he waited for her reaction. If that's what you want, she said with determination, then you can do it. She took that better than I expected, Ronan mused. But before he could say anything, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye. A cell peeked out from behind the doorframe. It's a cell, not Michelle, she corrected. And you said you wouldn't leave me alone if I didn't come. Forget about that, Ronan replied coolly. Tonight's busy, and there's something I want to test on you. A test? Estelle asked, frowning. What are you talking about all of a sudden? It's simple, he said, rising. Use your telekinesis on me. Lift me as high as you can. Her eyes widened in shock. Telekinesis? Why would I do something so dangerous? It's not dangerous, Ronan said with a confident smirk. Just do as I say. Trust me, I won't die from it. Hesitantly, Estelle raised her hand, focusing her mana. Fine, but don't blame me if something goes wrong. Her ability, Invisible Hand, activated, and Ronan felt himself being lifted into the air. He was surprised by the strength of her control. Not bad, he muttered, soaring higher. Although it lacked height and stability, it reminded him of the battle against Aod, where he fought giants on equal footing using telekinesis. This ability will be critical when facing Aod again. Estelle's voice trembled. I can't hold it much longer. Can you come down now? Not yet, Ronan said. I need to test one more thing. I'll come down myself. What? How? Before she could finish, Ronan swung his sword, slicing through the air. With a graceful leap, he descended and landed firmly on the ground. Estelle stared at him in disbelief. You just got my mana. What did you do? Ronan shrugged. It's nothing. Just an acrobatic trick I've been doing for years. That's not just a trick. I've never seen anyone cut mana before. Ronan lightly knocked her on the head. Drop it. I don't know why it happens either. Figuring it out is just one of the tasks on my to-do list. Estelle frowned, but didn't press further. Ronan smirked. Anyway, you passed the test. Hold this and follow me. There's something we need to do before the moon rises. Estelle blinked, confused but intrigued. This moment, Ronan thought, might be the first page of the Empire's greatest history book, my biography. As they walked through the forest under the night sky, Ronan began talking about Filion Academy. Wait, Estelle interrupted. Did I hear that right? Filion Academy? The school for the Empire's elite? You and I. You heard me, Ronan said, annoyed. Why are you asking? Don't you want to go? It's not that, Estelle stammered. You're talented in martial arts, but I'm just... me. Cowardly, timid, and useless. I don't belong there. Ronan stopped and turned to her, his expression serious. Do you want to keep living like this? With your talent, you're wasting it on punks. Is this really the life you want? Estelle looked away, ashamed. Honestly, you're an idiot sometimes, Ronan continued. You're cowardly, timid, a crybaby, and a loser. But that's okay, because you can change. The time you waste now can't be undone, and one day, you'll regret it. Just like I did. His words hit her hard. What do you think? Change your mind yet? Estelle's eyes widened. Ronan, you were worried about someone like me? It's your life, he said, turning away. I won't force you. Go back if you want. I'm busy. He started walking, but Estelle shouted after him. Wait, I want to change too. I'll go to Filion Academy with you. Teach me what I need to do. Ronan grinned. All right, that's the first time you've said something manly. Estelle blushed but nodded. Let's start then, Ronan said, an evil grin spreading across his face. By the campfire, Estelle gawked at the creature in front of her. A lunar gobbler? That's my first hurdle? Of course, Ronan said casually. It's the perfect opponent to bring out your potential. And it's a leader too. Isn't it great? Estelle stared at him in disbelief. How is this great? Ronan drew his sword, his grin widening. Now then, shall we get started? Lunar goblins, a peculiar breed of goblin that frequents this region. While most distinguish them from ordinary goblins by their yellow skin and grotesque features, their defining trait is their obsession with gold and treasures. They ambush merchants, steal their goods, and gather the loot in one spot to host a festival, particularly under the glow of a full moon, just like tonight. Estelle's voice trembled. So the reason we're here is... Ronan smirked. Yep, we're gonna steal all that treasure tonight. Estelle gaped. I've never heard of goblins gathering treasure for a festival. How did you even know that? I have my ways, Ronan replied vaguely, hiding the truth that he'd seen this firsthand in his previous life. Grabbing her by the collar, he continued, Anyway, your job is simple. Use your telekinesis to move all their treasure into this bag while they're asleep. Easy, right? Estelle stammered. That doesn't sound easy at all. What if I mess up and they wake up? Ronan shrugged nonchalantly. Then it'll be really bad. Her voice rose in protest. This is way too dangerous. We need to think this through. You're such a coward, Ronan snapped. Listen, to get into Filion Academy, we need two things right now. Money to pay their insane tuition and experience to prepare for the challenges ahead. Filion's full of elites who've been trained since birth. Do you think you can beat them without real experience? There's only one way. Risk your life and grow stronger. He gestured toward the goblin camp. Those guys are the perfect opponents. We get money and experience killing two birds with one stone. Unless you have a better idea, Estelle hesitated but couldn't argue. I don't. But Then it's settled, Ronan said firmly. Let's get started. From a safe distance, Estelle began levitating piles of treasure using her invisible hand. Her focus was unwavering, and the treasure floated steadily into the large bag. Just a bit more, Ronan encouraged, watching her progress with a sharp eye. That's it. Excellent. With the final bag filled, he grinned. I told you, Estelle. Experience is the best teacher. Estelle, panting slightly, said, Yeah, it worked. Ronan thought to himself, Honestly, I wasn't too confident about this plan. To think she'd adapt so quickly, she's better than I expected. With an almost sinister grin, he added silently, I found a really good minion. All right, he said aloud, hoisting the bulging bag. Now that we're done, let's head back before anything goes wrong. As they walked through the forest, the sound of shouting interrupted the calm night. Hey, stupid chicken head, stop right there. Ronan and Estelle froze. A group of men chased a bird-like creature, their loud commotion echoing through the trees. What kind of psychos are causing a ruckus in the middle of the night? Ronan muttered. Before Estelle could respond, the noise startled the sleeping lunar goblins. One goblin stirred, then another, until the entire tribe awoke. The largest goblin, clearly their leader, let out a furious roar. Thieves! The realization that their treasure was gone spread quickly through the camp. Spotting Ronan and Estelle nearby, the goblins screeched in unison and charged. Estelle's face turned pale. This is not good. Ronan sighed. I knew things were going too well. What do we do? Estelle cried. Should we throw the bags and run? Are you insane? Ronan shot back. How else are we paying for tuition? Are you going to earn it somehow? But that's not important right now, she shouted, panicking as the goblins drew closer. Ronan pulled his sword, examining it with a calculating look. This cheap steel blade can handle about 15 hits. There are 30 of them, so we'll need to get creative. Without waiting for her reply, he charged forward. His sword slashed through the first wave of goblins, severing 3 heads in one strike. That's enough out of you, Ronan growled, sending the severed heads flying. Estelle watched in stunned silence as he effortlessly dispatched the goblins. Now, he muttered, wiping blood from his blade, 14 left. The dark sky was filled with black crows, their red eyes glowing ominously as they watched from above. The heavy longsword crashed down, splitting the skull of the final lunar goblin with a sickening crack. Ronan wiped his blade. Was that the last one? Well, that wasn't so bad. Estelle stood frozen, her thoughts racing. Impossible. What did I just see? She replayed the events in her mind. Ronan decapitating 3 goblins with a single strike, then vanishing for a moment as the goblin mob charged. When he reappeared, heads flew wherever he moved, his sword slicing through the creatures like a storm. He called out, breaking her daze. What are you doing? Still spacing out? Sorry, she stammered, snapping back to reality. There's no need to apologize, he said, sheathing his sword. Hurry up and grab your things. We're heading home. As they walked under the moonlit canopy, Ronan stretched his sore shoulders. That was seriously tiring, he muttered. I thought we'd be able to travel comfortably. But of course, nothing ever goes smoothly. He frowned, flexing his arm. To think my muscles are getting sore just from slicing up some goblins. Is it because I'm still growing? When we get back, I'm hitting some serious physical training. Estelle, still shaken, asked, What about that horrible shrieking back there? Do you know what it was? No clue, Ronan replied with a shrug. Those crazy goblins screaming in the middle of the night? I'll make sure they regret making this so difficult. Suddenly, a red glowing arrow shot through the air, aimed directly at Estelle. Ronan's instincts kicked in, and he snatched the arrow mere inches from her face. Estelle gasped. What was that? Ronan's eyes narrowed, scanning the darkness. Is this forest cursed or something? Now we've got lunatics shooting at us. His gaze locked onto two men stepping out from the shadows, both wearing matching uniforms. One of the men smirked. Well, what do we have here? Kids, huh? Sorry about that. Something was rushing through the trees, so we thought it was a monster. Ronan's grip on the arrow tightened. Stop lying. You're not even trying to hide the look in your eyes. Cut the crap and answer me properly. Who are you? His glare was cold and deadly. The second man sneered. My bad. Guess I forgot to introduce myself. We're from Calibora. Before he finished, the man lunged at Ronan with a knife. With practiced precision, Ronan caught the attacker's arm, twisting it sharply before driving his fist into the man's chin. Blood sprayed from his mouth as he crumpled to the ground. You guys are from that piece of crap organization, huh? Ronan growled. The second man charged, blade in hand, but before he could reach Ronan, he froze mid-step, his body suspended in the air. Stop! Estelle shouted, her outstretched hand trembling as her telekinesis pinned the assailant. Ronan's eyes widened. Nice one. With a swift motion, he knocked the knife from the man's hand, caught it mid-air, and drove it into the attacker's side. The man screamed before collapsing. Estelle hesitated. Is he gone? Ronan didn't flinch. Of course. Why would I let someone trying to kill me live? Didn't you hear what these guys said? They're Calibora. Estelle blinked, confused. Calibora, the Empire's most notorious poaching group, Ronan explained. They do it all: kidnapping, human trafficking, and worse. If it wasn't for me, your organs would have been harvested, and you'd be buried in some ditch by now. He sheathed his sword, glaring at her. Knowing who they are and letting them live is the real crime. So stop making a fuss and pack up. Before they could move, one of the thieves' knapsacks began to shake violently. What the hell? Ronan muttered as the bag levitated off the ground. What's in there? Estelle asked, her voice tense. Is it some kind of poached animal? Ronan cut the bag open, his sword at the ready. Blue eyes stared back at him as a strange bird with shimmering feathers burst out, its wings spreading wide. Ronan blinked. What the? Is that a chicken? The chained bird chirped softly, its blue feathers shimmering like starlight. Estelle's eyes sparkled as she leaned closer. Ronan, it's my first time seeing a blue bird like this. It's my first time too, Ronan admitted, examining the bird closely. But what's with these shackles? Are they Caliboras? He inspected the magical chains. These are poaching shackles. They disrupt the prisoner's mana and restrict their movement. I thought they only used these in rare cases or for capturing fantastical creatures. Could this bird be one of them? Suddenly, a glowing yellow magic circle appeared near the bird, and a voice shouted, Reply. Please reply. Finally, it linked. Estelle gasped. Did the bird just talk? Of course not, you idiot, Ronan said, rolling his eyes. It's communication magic. He narrowed his gaze at the circle. Whoever's on the other end, I assume you're the bird's owner? The voice responded, That's right. My name is Varen. I'm a researcher of fantastical beasts at the institution. That bird, Namarke, is under my guardianship. I've been trying to communicate with it for days, but nothing worked. I was starting to prepare a report, but thank goodness it linked now. Who are you? We're righteous passersby, Ronan said, scratching his head. We fought some poachers who had kidnapped your bird and, well, saved it. Poachers? Varen's voice echoed with alarm. It crossed my mind, but I didn't think it was true. I'm deeply indebted to you. I don't know how to repay such a deed. No need for that, Ronan replied. But how do we get this bird back to you? It seems exhausted from being chained up. If I remove the shackles, will it be able to fly? Yes, it should. Varen assured him. The dream bird has remarkable instincts. If you can free it, it will find its way back to me. Ronan nodded and unsheathed his sword. With a single, precise strike, the chain shattered, startling the bird. There! You're free now, Ronan said, patting the bird gently. Go back to your owner, Bluey. Stop making him worry. The bird chirped excitedly, flapping its wings, but instead of flying away, it began shoving its tail feathers into Ronan's face. What's it doing? Ronan asked, annoyed. Varen chuckled. It wants you to pluck a feather. The dream bird's feathers act as a compass, pointing directly to the bird's location. It must want to see you again. Reluctantly, Ronan plucked a feather, and the bird let out a jubilant chirp before soaring into the sky like a streak of blue lightning. Wow, Acel whispered. It's so fast. A few days later, in a bustling loading area filled with merchants and horses, Ronan stood before Duan Carabel, the head of the Carabel merchantry. Duan inspected a jewel Ronan had brought. The craftsmanship on this is incredible, Duan said, nodding in approval. I'll offer you 20 gold coins. Ronan beamed. Finally, someone who knows the value of these things. All the other merchants were scammers. I was about to lose my mind. Duan chuckled. It's my honor to serve such a valuable customer. Is there anything else you'd like appraise? Well, actually, Ronan pulled a shimmering orb from his pocket. I'm not selling this, but I'm curious about it. Duan's eyes widened as he examined it. This texture, this color. Could it be? Ronan leaned forward eagerly. Is it a treasure? Duan squinted. Could it be? Horse poo. Ronan's excitement shattered. Of course not. Duan shrugged. Then I have no idea. It's certainly unusual. You should get it appraised somewhere specialized. Ronan sighed. I guess I'll hold on to it for now. By the way, do you sell books on Filion? Filion Academy? Duan asked. Ah, your entrance applicants. What good timing. My daughter is also preparing for the exam. She could help you. Maria, Duan called out. Come meet these fine people. A young woman with a confident stride approached. What's going on, Dad? Who are they? These are my esteemed customers, Duan said. Meet my one and only child, Maria. Ronan froze. Maria? That's her? The girl frowned. What about it? Ronan stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. Are you Maria's son? Yeah. How do you know that? She asked, suspicious. Ronan leaned in, lowering his voice. One more thing. Do you happen to have that? What are you talking about? She said, stepping back. You know, down there. What? Maria yelled, her face turning crimson. Maria's face twisted in disbelief. What crap did I just listen to? She muttered incredulously. Ronan crossed his arms and shook his head. No matter how I look at you, it doesn't seem like you have one. Does that old man have another child? Before he could continue, Maria's hand flew at his face, landing a resounding slap. Shut up, you crazy jerk! Ronan touched his cheek unfazed. Ah, this slap. This familiar sensation. Could it be Count Maria's son? His voice trembled slightly. Memories began flooding back. When Ronan was a disciplinary soldier in Armarlin, Maria had been in charge of supplies. Her unwavering work ethic, easygoing nature, and ability to connect with everyone had made her an impressive figure. But there had always been one peculiarity. Whenever the men joked about private matters, Maria would get unusually angry and slap someone. I was curious back then, Ronan muttered to himself. I wanted to ask why, but there was never a chance. His expression darkened. Because Maria died before I did. He looked at her with realization. So, Maria, you were a girl all along. Maria's eyes narrowed. You're laughing? That wasn't enough for you, huh? Fine, here's another one. She lunged at him, aiming another slap. Ronan ducked and tapped her forehead with his knuckles. "Stop it, brat. You're acting up because I let you hit me once. I admit I was wrong earlier, but I won't let it happen again." "Oh yeah," she challenged, headbutting his chin. "What if I hit you twice, you crazy jerk?" Ronan rubbed his chin, exasperated. "Seriously, you're insane? You're dead," she shouted, charging at him again. The merchant and Estelle both stepped in, shouting, "Stop the violence." A while later, Estelle watched the two now chatting casually, her head tilting in confusion. What's with these two? A second ago, they were fighting like they wanted to kill each other, and now they're acting like best friends. Maria inspected the weapons Ronan had brought. 3 swords and a magic wand? Why'd you bring so many? Wouldn't it be hard to carry them all? Ronan shrugged. Just in case. I tend to use swords a little roughly. So, how are they? Maria examined them closely. They're not bad. The black iron sword is the best among them. Black iron is sturdy. It's a material that even renowned knights seek. No matter how roughly you handle your swords, this one won't break easily. Ronan's eyes widened. A black iron sword. This was my favorite weapon in the past. Maria moved on to the wand. This has a good magic stone embedded in it. Leaving this behind means there's a mage among you. Is this cutie a rare mage? She pointed at Estelle. Estelle blushed. Why, yeah, that's me. Maria's eyes lit up. What kind of magic do you use? Telekinesis, Estelle replied softly. Maria's excitement was palpable. Telekinesis? That's amazing. If you do well, you might even get a scholarship. Estelle's face brightened at the unexpected praise. Maria turned back to Ronan. Now, what about you? What technique are you planning to show during the practical exam? Technique? Ronan asked, confused. Maria groaned. You don't know? To enter Filion, you need to pass a practical exam where you impress the professors with your technique. The theory exam is tough, but not as much as the practical. If you don't prove your worth, forget about getting in. Ronan frowned. I figured a swordsman just needs to be good at swordsmanship. What do people usually demonstrate? Most nobles show off their family's secret techniques, Maria explained. Martial artists and other applicants demonstrate their unique fighting styles. It's all about showing your mastery of mana. Mana? Ronan blinked. Kids can use mana already. Of course, Maria said, her tone incredulous. If you're aiming for Filion, you should have been sensing and using mana for combat ages ago. Don't tell me. You don't know how to sense your mana? Ronan scratched his head. Isn't it similar to using aura? Maria froze, her jaw dropping. Aura? Mana? Similar? She burst into laughter, then stopped abruptly. Wait, you're serious? What's the big deal? Ronan asked defensively. This won't do, Maria said, grabbing him by the arm. Come outside. Now! What? All of a sudden? Ronan protested. Can I borrow your short sword? Maria asked, dragging him along. Why? What if you damage it? Don't worry. We'll finish before that happens. And if I do damage it, I'll pay you back threefold. Now stop talking and follow me. Once outside, Maria began explaining mana. Mana is the root source of natural power. It's everywhere, like air, but not everyone can use it. To do so, you need to sense and harness your own mana. That process, called mana sense, usually takes a year of training, even for talented individuals. Sounds tedious, Ronan muttered. It is, Maria replied. Filion students are expected to have already mastered mana sense and develop their techniques before applying. Do you get it now? You didn't even know the difference between mana and aura, and you want to go to Filion? Fine, fine. Ronan relented. But is there really such a big difference between mana and aura? It's like comparing the sky and the earth, Maria said. Aura is a form of mana, but reaching that level takes at least 10 years of grueling training and innate talent. And yet, here you are, mixing them up. Ronan recalled his experiences on the battlefield. So those annoying braggarts were aura users. Makes sense now. Enough talk, Maria said, unsheathing the borrowed sword. You'll learn faster by doing. Let's spar. Before Ronan could respond, Maria dashed at him, closing the distance in an instant. Their swords clashed, and Ronan's eyes widened in surprise. Well, look at that, he muttered, smirking. Ronan and Maria's swords clashed relentlessly. Sparks flew with every strike. Ronan thought to himself, she's still young, but she's already this strong, wielding dual swords no less. I can't see it clearly, but is this the mana combat technique she mentioned? Maria, meanwhile, was gritting her teeth. What is with this guy? I was planning to finish this with one blow, to show him the power of mana and make him give up before the test. That would have been kinder than letting him get humiliated at the test site. But instead, I'm the one being pushed back. And this from someone who can't even use mana? What are you thinking about? Ronan smirked as he drove forward, charging up a furious blow. Don't block. Dodge! Startled by the intensity in his voice, Maria dodged instinctively, flinging herself backward. She landed hard, her grip on her swords tightening as she steadied herself. Well, she muttered, catching her breath. That could have been a huge problem. You're not just some ordinary kid, are you? Same goes for you, Ronan replied calmly. You've got talent with the blades, but you're still clumsy at finding your center of balance. Fix that, and you'll improve a lot. Maria stood, narrowing her eyes. Where do you think you're going? Don't tell me you think you've won already. Don't care, Ronan said with a shrug. Just keep your word. Didn't you say threefold if the sword broke? As if on cue, the sword Maria held shattered. She stared at the pieces in disbelief. No. But when did this happen? Ronan gave her a sly grin. Keep your sword ready next time. Asel approached, his face sympathetic. Well done, he said, looking at Maria as if he knew exactly how she felt. Ronan stretched and yawned. Hurry up, Asel. I'm gonna die of boredom waiting. Okay. Asel jogged over, carrying supplies. Maria watched them leave, still trying to process everything. What the heck is that guy? Later, Ronan approached Maria with a stack of books in his hands. I came here to pick up a sword, and instead, I get this? Books? Maria smirked. Yep, Filian writing problem books and my summarized notes. Don't you need them? The test is only a month away. That's true, but why go through all this trouble? I thought you were trying to rip me off. It's nothing like that, Maria replied, brushing him off. I've just come to like you guys. This is my way of wishing us all success. And it's free, obviously. Well, in that case, I won't say no, Ronan said, flipping through the pages. I'd teach you myself if I could, Maria added, but I've got to move immediately for a trade. So study hard on your own. If you don't pass after all this help, I won't let you off the hook. Got it? Ronan smirked. Focus on yourself, woman. Maria waved as she walked off. See you on test day at the Imperial Capital. Don't lose a single book. Ronan watched her go, his thoughts turning serious. I have to train this weakened body and study, something I never imagined doing as a penal soldier. But it doesn't feel too bad. 1 month later, the Imperial Capital, Balan, the streets of Balan bustled with energy. Its centerpiece unmistakable, the White Tower, home to the Empire's most prestigious institution, Filian Academy. Asel stared in awe. It said Filian is a work of art by itself. Hey, Ronan barked. Stop gawking in the middle of the road like some country bumpkin. You'll be late for the test. Startled, Asel turned to him. Ronan, You, what's with that reaction? Ronan asked, raising an eyebrow. I mean, just a month, you've gotten bigger, Estelle stammered. Ronan rolled his eyes. You're saying that again. Stop wasting time and get moving. As they walked, Ronan's thoughts wandered. If it's Fillion around this time, will that man be here too? The Sword Saint Shulapin, representing the Grancia clan, known for their unparalleled swordsmanship. A genius swordsman, hailed as the Empire's strongest. He'd be my age now. Maybe I'll meet him during this test. But it wouldn't matter much. Estelle interrupted his thoughts. By the way, do you have it? Have what? Ronan asked. The feather, Estelle clarified. The one you plucked from that dream bird after saving it. It's supposed to lead you to its owner. Oh, that, Ronan said, pulling out the feather. Yeah, I've got it. I remembered that old guy lived in the capital, so I was planning to find him after the test. As if responding to his words, the feather shot upward, heading straight for the top floor of Fillion Academy. At the top floor, a man sat by the window, his expression weary. This job is not easy. I just can't get used to working as a professor. Should I go back to being an adventurer? The dream bird perched on his shoulder chirped in encouragement. You're right, the man sighed. I should at least repay your savior for helping you. The man, Professor Veron Fanasier, a Werlion and zoology expert at Fillion, stood to open the window. Still, it'd be troublesome if they showed up immediately. Before he could finish, Ronan appeared in the window, his menacing glare freezing the professor and the dream bird in place. I didn't even knock, Ronan muttered. But it opened? Veron and the dream bird screamed in unison. Thanks for tuning in to No Limit Recaps. If you enjoyed today's recap, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to avoid missing any of our future videos. If you want this manhwa's next part, drop it in the comments. Got a favorite manhwa or a series you want me to cover next? Drop it in the comments below. Your suggestions keep this channel growing. You can also join our Discord for more updates, sneak peeks, and manhwa discussions. Until next time, stay limitless.